Well, you're very welcome to today's talk, Sunday the 11th of June. Now, excess deaths around the world remain high. They were throughout 2022, and this is continuing into 2023. In the United Kingdom, for example, the last week that we have full records for, it was 9.4% above the 5-year average. What is going on here? And it's an international phenomenon. And let's just look at some of the data first of all. So this is from our world in data. Now, what we're looking at here is this is basically 2022 into 2023. And we can see that that's zero. So that's where we would expect the lines to be. But we've noticed for these countries, New Zealand, South Korea, Hong Kong, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, Germany, Netherlands, United States, France and Denmark, they are all well above the line. Deaths in all these countries throughout 2022 and 2023, for the most part, and the average is certainly way above. Yes, you got the odd one dipping below for a period of time, but the average is well above. Now, let's just break that down into individual countries, and we'll see that this is a real international trend. You know, it's a pity we don't have an organisation that's responsible for global health, because if they did, they'd be absolutely bouncing up and down about this and saying, what is killing our people? Let's get to the bottom of this. It's just gone on for too long. It really has. We've been hoping it's been going down, but it hasn't. Let's look at some individual countries here. So here we start off with the excess deaths for Australia. Now that's the 10% excess deaths line there. So we can see that deaths in Australia have been well above, and sometimes 20% above average, all throughout basically 2022. They dipped down to about average there. Really quite a lot of excess deaths in Australia. This is Canada. That's the plus 10% line there, so fairly similar. We would expect the line to be actually way down here at the 0% line, but it's not. It's above all of the time. Ongoing excess deaths in Canada. How much more plainly can you put it? Netherlands. That's 0% there. Now, they did dip down a little below the average, but the average is well above the average for most of the time in Netherlands. So what is going on in Netherlands? New Zealand, again, this is plus 5%. So New Zealand has been well above average, again, for since January 2022 all the way through that we have figures for, up to May the 21st, 2023. It remains high. Why is there no international outcry about this? Am I missing something here? I just don't understand this. It's like an international deafening silence on this. New Zealand, Ireland, also same. So Ireland, that's the 0 line there. So yeah, it's been dipped below a couple of times, but again, we see the average way above average. The area under the graph here is way more than the area under the graph below the line. This is the United Kingdom, again 0% line there, and we've been above the average for weeks now. For getting on for 18 months now. This is the United States. Now, again, notice that this line here starts at 5%. So the United States has not dropped below a 5% excess mortality rate and has gone up to well over 20% for quite a bit of the time. Again, where is the outcry about this? What is happening here? You know, because this is happening to all of these countries all at the same time, you would suspect that there might be a common cause of this. Why isn't there research being done on this? Why hasn't this been publicised on mainstream media? Why isn't there an organisation for World Health that's investigating this and saying, just a minute, what is killing our people? Absolutely incredible. I wish we could discuss more. I really do wish we could discuss more. But anyway, let's look at the United Kingdom as a particular example. Now, in the UK here, we have Office for National Statistics, which data is, well, it's as good as we've got. I mean, it's not perfect, but weekend in the 26th of May, this is death certificates. 11,111 deaths registered in England and Wales. 262 mentioned novel coronavirus, 2.4% of all deaths. But of course, not all of those died from novel coronavirus. And these were in people with other risk factors for the vast majority of cases. Of the 226 deaths involving coronavirus, 65% basically, had this recorded as the underlying cause. But again, these were mostly older, much older people who tend to die more commonly anyway, and people with significant comorbidities. So I've talked to some GPs about that figure actually, and I'll come on to that in a minute. They're not quite sure where this came from, but it's Office for National Statistics data, so we have to stick with it. Number of deaths above the 5-year average. This is for England and Wales. Private homes 17.3% above, 472. It's so easy to read these numbers out, but so many of you write into me and leave comments and talk about your own personal bereavements, often people that have died well before the time that they should have died, often for reasons that aren't clear. And these are real people. This is why we carry on doing this. It's just incredible that it's not a topic of international research and international news. Hospitals 6.3% above the average, care homes 6.7%, other settings, prisons, etc., institutions 15.8% above. The number of deaths registered in the United Kingdom, 12,528, 9.4% above the 5-year average. That's 1,076 excess deaths. And here we see the data for the UK here that we've been following. The black line, of course, is what we would expect. The blue is COVID deaths. The green is non-COVID deaths. And here we see the last few weeks, and we know that line there, for example, is 9.4%. So it was a bit higher the week before, lower for a couple of weeks, but still some excess deaths, then higher. And for most of 2022, it's been higher than we would expect, and that's the most recent weeks there. So we just see this ongoing excess deaths in all these modern, sophisticated countries that we most of us live in, and it's just an ongoing disaster for individuals and their families, and yet we hear virtually nothing. So I really hope that pretty soon I'll be able to come and say, right, excess deaths have gone down now, but they haven't. They remain high and have done for 18 months on the whole. That graph just shows it really quite nicely. All these countries well above the 0% line for most of the time, and yet from our elected officials and from our non-elected officials in diverse places who are unelected and unaccountable, we hear nothing. And from the majority of mainstream media, we hear nothing. Why should it be left to eccentrics like me sitting in my back room to sound the alarm on this? Why? You sense my frustration. I don't need to go on. It's demoralising to dwell on these very negative issues, but we're talking with people's lives here, and we have to write to politicians and say, right, let's get this investigated. We need to know why people are dying at an accelerated rate. Silence is not acceptable to me, and I know to many of you that are watching. Immensely frustrating. It's almost like leaders are living in a parallel universe. You've got the message, so I'm going to leave it there, and anything you can think of to do to get people to investigate this properly and to prevent it happening in future, if you can think of something, please do it. Thank you for watching.